the studios of Time Warner Cable in partnership with the Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Forum 360, Global Outlook, Local View.
Welcome to Forum 360. I'm Leslie Ungar, your host today on Neon, your Northeast Ohio network. You either were at the Miracle of Richfield, heard about the Miracle of Richfield, or wished you were at the Miracle of Richfield. It has become as much a part of the fabric of Northeast Ohio as tires and the drive. The Miracle of Richfield represents magic, mystique, and truly miracles, like making the playoffs for the first time in franchise history. We are coming to you today from the practice facility for our Cleveland Cavaliers, known as Cleveland Clinic Courts. We're coming to you with a special group, perhaps the most special group of guests we have ever assembled on the show. 1976 was a time when the old Coliseum actually pulsated with excitement. The 70s excitement was followed by the dream team of the 80s and the 90s. With Price, Nance, and Doherty, we all thought things were possible, even beating Michael Jordan. I'm thrilled to introduce to you 4 players from those 2 eras. First, I am thrilled to introduce you to Austin Carr, known as Mr. Cavalier. Austin was the first player the Cavs took in 1971. He played with Lenny Wilkens and would later become who would become an NBA coach. Austin's record-setting average of 50 points per game in 7 NCAA playoff games may never be broken. He is now a color commentator, and his jersey, number 34, is one of the 6 that have been retired by the Cavs. So we welcome you, Austin.
Thank you.
Campy is special because he has done Forum 360 more times than any other human being in history. He played 9 years, including a turn with the New York Knicks. Actually, his name is Michael, which I have never found out anyone ever calls him Michael. He is now Director of Alumni Relations and co-host of the pre- and post-game show. And he was a star at the University of Michigan, for which I have, and most of Northeast Ohio, have forgiven you for that. You have made it up in your later life. I welcome you. Yes. Larry Nance. Larry played 1981 to 94. He is immortalized forever as the first winner of the NBA Slam Dunk Contest. He was known throughout his career as the model of consistency. He came here in a trade and made an immediate impact and continued to make an impact. What I really want to know is how he fits into those small race cars. So I welcome you. And Jim Chones was the second player to leave college early for the NBA. 35 years later, he went back for his degree in philosophy, which must help you a lot in understanding the psyche of athletes.
I don't understand your question.
He won an NBA title with the LA Lakers and is now a color analyst. So you know the special guests. You know, many of us think we are a legend in our own mind, but we have 4 guests today who truly are a legend in their own time. So I welcome all of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
My first question. You played under many different coaches. I want to ask, what makes a good coach a good coach? Or what makes a great coach a great coach? And Austin, you played with Lenny Wilkens as a player. Mm-hmm. Could you have foreseen when you played with him that he had coaching material or that he would become a coach?
Oh, yes. I mean,
why?
He just had that knowledge. He had the understanding of the game. He taught me when I came into the league, I was a scorer, and I mean, I had no idea about being on the other side. So he taught me how to slow down, I mean, and see the game through different eyes. And you could see Lenny always had that feel for coaching. I mean, he just, and because he had a knack for.
So now, is he a better player or a better coach? If you had to pick one.
He was a great player and he was a great coach. I mean, it's hard to say which he was the best at because he was great. He was great at both of them.
So what makes, if you had to give me one quality, what makes a good coach a good coach?
Oh boy, it's hard to say one thing. I'd say one thing. Two things I would say. He knows how to get the best out of you and he respects you.
Okay.
The one thing that I think you can't be a great coach unless you respect your players.
So there's Austin's take. Now, Campy, let me go down the line here. If you had to say what makes a good coach a good coach,
I think it would be probably managing personnel. Managing
like
all these different
leader.
egos and being able to get the most out of them while you're trying to manage them. I think that's probably the biggest thing. But just to go back to Austin said something about he was an offensive guy, but he didn't know anything about the other side. What was the other side?
Did he never learn? Did he? The dark side. The other side was the dark side.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. But that just stuck with me, so I had to.
The other side's called assist.
Well, you're right. You didn't know anything about the other side. Okay, all right. I'm sorry about that.
No, I'm glad for it. Larry, let me ask you, what's the difference between a great coach and a good coach?
Well, Coach Lenny, which I think is the best coach I ever had, really understood the game. He understood when you was on the floor. He could see plays breaking down. He understood why they broke down, and he put you in positions to be successful. And, we had plays that teams couldn't stop, and then we would run those plays until they almost stopped, and then we had options off of it. So he always gave us great opportunities to be successful, and that's what I think made him such a great coach. And we all loved him. And he always made us practice hard, and we wanted to practice hard. And for somebody to be able to put that many personalities together and make them work as hard as they did, I think that sums up why he was so great.
Yeah.
Which is interesting what you say, because truly any leader, any CEO, they have to be able to put their people in a position to succeed.
Right, and I think he did that every night. I mean, we watched film, and he showed us what we did wrong, and he showed us how we can do it right. And we would have timeouts, and he would tell us exactly what we're doing wrong. And when we go back on the court and change it, we would see success.
Now, I'm curious, it seemed like when there were like 2 minutes left of a game and the Cavs were behind 2 points, it seemed like, there'd be a timeout and he would talk to you guys, and it seemed like he always came up with something that if it didn't win, at least it made you competitive.
Well,
Can you remember anything that happened in that last timeout?
Well, I think that sums up how great he was, because we always got a good look. And, and that's all you can ask for, is to get a good look, and whether it go in or not, we hope it does. But we always design great plays and got a good look, and that's what kind of coach he was. Just always being prepared, I guess, is for whatever situation we come to.
And Jim, you got an NBA championship with the LA Lakers.
Yes.
So tell us, what makes a great coach a great coach?
Probably understanding. Lenny, I spent a lot of time with Lenny, when he was here, because I was a new broadcaster. And one thing he always said that stayed in my mind was that there's two kinds of coaches. There's coaches that coach by feel, and there's coaches that coach by systems. And he said the best coaches, he felt, were the ones that coach by feel. But he said that's the difference between a coach who was a former player versus a coach who wasn't a player.
Okay, so
there's systems and there's feel.
Okay.
And Lenny coached from feel. He just had that knowledge.
That leads me to my next question. But
Sure.
first I have to ask you, can you talk about the current Cavs coach? Is he a feel or a systems?
Oh, it's easy. He's a feel.
He's a feel.
But he understands that he needs a systematic approach because the basketball is so complex, but it's simple. There's a lot of facets, a lot of things you have to adhere to, and you have to have a systematic approach in order for preparation. But the overall thing is that when he's coaching, he stands there alone. Mm-hmm. Not many can do that. And he feels when to call timeout, when to make substitutions, because he's played the game.
So that leads me to my next question. It seems like in the NBA, more than any other professional sport, that the effective coaches are former players. And it doesn't, look, Joe Paterno, may rest in peace, certainly wasn't a former NFL player. It doesn't seem like in other sports it's as necessary. Is it necessary, and why is it more necessary in the NBA than it is in other sports, professional sports?
Well, I think numbers have something to do with it. It's a small number of guys. and you have to be in touch with each one. When in football, oh man, you got 50, 60 guys. He's a defensive coach, defensive assistant. It's more delegation, and it's more of a system, so the guy doesn't have to have played.
You got to do more coordinating.
Yeah, but Lenny, man, Lenny was a heck of a coach, and Byron is unbelievable. I didn't know Byron was this good. He really has an unbelievable feel for how the game should be played. And now there's exceptions, because you look at Popovich. But Popovich spent a lot of years with Larry Brown. And they're still best friends. So he was able to cross over and still be a great coach. Now there's Riley, who coached, played, Jackson.
Yes.
A lot of our great coaches have played.
Yes, that's why. Is it if you were interviewing a coach for a team, would you make it a prerequisite that they had to be an NBA player?
I definitely think it helps because you done been in all these situations. Now, the great coaches that have been in all the situations that can relay that to the players to make them successful when they're on the court is going to be the one that probably win the most games, in my opinion.
Now,
I think that's interesting. When you were talking about Lenny earlier, I think coaches, in my opinion, is as good as the talent that they have. And then how they manage that talent. And you go back to Lenny, with his abilities to orchestrate a team, but then it's one thing for him to be able to talk to the players, but then the players have to be able to listen and then go out and execute it. So you have to give, credence to both sides. A great coach, and then the players that have the ability to execute what he is saying to them, because sometimes you can say something to a player and draw out something, and then as soon as you walk out on the court,
it's gone.
Everybody look around like, what did he just say?
so
that's huge to have guys that.
Okay, so that begs the question: what makes a player a great player? It's not all skill. So what makes a player a great player?
You got to have different abilities to, take in information. You got to be able to bring it out fast. You got to be able to. You got to do a lot of different things, but you got to have the ability too. So it's not like you can. To me, if you don't have the talent to start with, you can't get to that point. But if you have the talent to start with, then you got to have it here, and you got to have want to. If you don't have want to, I don't care how good you are, you're not going to make it. You got to want to, because there's a lot of times when a player run up and down this floor, you don't want to do it, you don't feel like it, you just don't have it, but there's something in you that makes you want to get to that finish line, make you want to go, and that's something that, to me, all the great players have that. They have it. You can't. I don't know what it is, but they have it.
I think to me, I think it all goes to having a clear vision. There's a lot of guys that play basketball that has a narrow vision, and then there's guys that have a wide vision. They can see things, they understand it, they know where everybody is out there on the court, and it's because they can see it in their mind's eye. I think that is powerful. That's how I felt like I played, was being able to see plays, understanding what's supposed to happen, when it's going to happen, and then being able to play in different situations. I think that's what makes a great player a great player. And I'm not saying I was a great player, but I was
you are a legend after all,
A legend? What's that?
They just they needed somebody to just take one more spot, so they gave it.
They had an extra shirt.
Being in the right place at the right time.
That's much of life, isn't it? So if that's what makes a great player, then let's look at team. You get teams that have a lot of talent that may play to disappointing results. What makes a team a team? How do you get these 5 or 6 or 9 or 10 players to play like a team? When you play Larry, it certainly felt from the outside like this was a team.
Well, we loved each other, for one thing. We all believed in each other. We all worked hard together, and we had one goal: we wanted to win. And when you have that one goal, you'll pass the ball to the open guy, not hesitate. And from night in to night out, we didn't know who was going to be the leading scorer. We didn't care who was going to be the leading scorer. We just knew when we played as a team, we won a lot of games, and that was really easy to sell us, and because we've seen the success of it.
Now, how much of that is the players, and how much of that comes from the coach to get you to play as a team, as to not care who the leading scorer was the night before?
I think we were lucky because we had a bunch of good guys that didn't care, along with coaching that was teaching that. So it all came together.
Came together to be the miracle?
Yep, to be the right situation.
That's basically because when I first came to Cleveland, it was rough. We had so many different personalities coming in and out so fast.
Austin, I want you to hold that, but I'm going to ask you in a minute about how you felt when you found out you were coming to Cleveland.
Okay.
But let me take 1 minute to reintroduce our show today. Welcome to Forum 360. Today we are talking with legends of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Austin Carr, Campy, Russell, Larry Nance, and Jim Chones. So stay with us for the second half of the show. So you find out, as the urban myth goes, you were actually in class. And you find out that you were taken by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Right.
Can you go back? What was your first thought when you heard, I'm going to Cleveland?
I'm going to be a professional basketball player. That was it.
Okay, so I've made it to the NBA.
Yes,
I've made it to
that's
the
what
NBA.
I've always wanted to do.
Okay.
I mean, nowadays guys try to orchestrate where they're going to go and this and that. I mean, and people have asked me, well, why did you go to Cleveland? You know, well, the second, couldn't you go somewhere else? I said, well, the way I look at it, like I went to Notre Dame, it was a football school. So I didn't care about, I figured wherever I go, I'm going to try and make it the best basketball place I can make it. And really, when I first got here, it was tough.
And
we
it
had
was
so
tough
many different
because-
personalities.
Oh, okay.
Because it was an expansion team and people were coming in and out. My first year, I had 6 roommates. I mean, I was like, man, that one guy would come in and I'd just get to know him and boom, he's gone. But after a while, each year we would get more. Campy, Jim, everybody started coming until we got 12 guys that thought one way. Only thing we want to do is win. And once we got to that point, it was like a birth, a miracle happened. It was just...
It truly was a miracle of Richfield.
It was amazing.
When you came to Cleveland, observers say that you were the spark that the team needed, that you made an immediate impact. Well, in baseball or football or basketball, you see somebody traded and all of a sudden you're in a new town, a new locker room, and then how do you go out and make an immediate impact?
Well, I was coming from Phoenix, where I was averaging 21, 22 points a game, and I was the main guy on that team. But this team, I felt when I came here, was pretty much set, and all I need to do is just come in and help. And so I put my ego aside and wanted to work with these guys, and that's how it fit in. I came in and we had Brad Daugherty, which was a great center. We had Mark Price, and all I wanted to do was come in and block some shots and help when I could, and it worked out that it all worked well. They had Hot Rod. They had a great team before I got here. I just wanted to come in and fit in, and that's what made it all work.
I think that's the key to having a good team.
Right.
Or a great team
What is
for
the key?
people to self-sacrifice.
Okay.
To
Right.
sacrifice some of their game in some instances, because I know when our miracle team, if you will, we had Jim Chones, who was a good center. We had Brewer, Austin, and myself and Chones. I mean, it's a lot of other guys, but it was all about sacrificing some parts of your game to make it all work. Because I've been on teams where you had all the talent, but because no one was willing to give up themselves or to sacrifice themselves, we had a tragic season. So it's easy for that to happen when guys are not willing to sacrifice some parts of the game.
Now, let me ask you, before we come to this facility, as you talk about a team that was willing to self-sacrifice or not, is there any team playing today in the NBA that you can point to and say, that's a team that self-sacrifices? That's
San
a model.
Antonio.
Pardon me? San Antonio?
San Antonio.
That's exactly what I was
San
thinking.
Antonio.
I really think they play well together, and that's why they're successful.
Yep.
Okay. So we are coming to you today from the Cleveland Cavaliers practice facility. You did not have this facility when you were a player. So I want to ask each one of you, and Jim, I'll start with you.
Sure.
As a player, what do you think you would have liked best about this facility?
Well, that's a hard question, but it's an easy question. But the facilities are fine. But facilities don't make championship teams. You know, we practiced when I was the Lakers at Marymount College in an old beat-up gym with the large wooden backboards. You know, and it's all great and fine because it's a nice presentation, you know, for the franchise and for the players. It makes the players think more of themselves. At least it should. But this facility is unbelievable, you know, because of the level of facets, what it has. The only thing I would be concerned about when I go into facilities is the lighting.
The lighting.
The lighting.
Why?
Because so many places have terrible lighting. They don't turn the lights on.
How does that affect practice?
Well, it affects the game and it affects practice because you don't see the ball as well.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
so things are a little different because you're moving fast and you're trying to react. But the lighting is perfect. But you know, I'm not caught up in facilities. You know, this is all great and fine. But this thing called winning is different. You know, it's about individuals, it's about coaches, it's about management, it's about their strategies, their perspective, how they look at things, because it starts from the top. If you have an aggressive owner, you're going to have an aggressive team. And if you have a smart coach, you're going to have a smart team. Now, it doesn't always happen at once.
Okay,
but,
so
you know,
I have to ask,
Yes.
do the Cavaliers have an aggressive owner?
Yes, and I
Do they
like
have a
it.
smart coach?
Yes. And see, we're packaging this thing. And see, that's where it all starts. You know, it starts from the top and it filters down to the bottom, you know.
Now, I'm going to ask each player what they would have liked best about this facility, but while I have you, let me ask you what encouraged you or inspired you to go back after 35 years and get your degree?
Because in the generation I came up in, athletes were looked up, especially basketball players, because of the way we had presented ourselves in the past as being dumb. And so I always fought it. I mean, I wanted to be an electrical engineer, but I couldn't do it at Marquette. But I was always fighting people thinking that we're not intelligent. So what I did is I took philosophy because I enjoyed it, and I looked at the way people looked at people who understood subconscious thought and all this other stuff. So, but I enjoyed it. I like to think beyond the obvious. So, you know, so I started writing and reading.
So you actually went back and got your degree
30-some years later.
at the same college.
At University, Marquette, baby.
So you stopped your life and went back there and
Yes,
took
I went
classes?
back because I have children. I have 5 children, and I wanted to make sure that I set the proper example. Because my wife had already sacrificed by staying home when she wanted to go so that she could be near the kids. So I said, you know what, I need to go back and get my degree. So I went back.
So what was that like, sitting in class with young?
With 17, 18-year-olds? Oh, it was cool because I'm young at heart, you know, so I could relate to them, even if I looked 20, 30 years older than them. So it was all right, you know, existentialism, metaphysics, you know, Sartre.
Is there
Kierkegaard,
anything that
you know.
surprised you about school 35 years later?
Kids are the same. You know, everybody's trying to do the best they can based upon their circumstance and environment. So that wasn't hard to deal with. You know, the hard thing for me was knowing I had other responsibilities, and here I was sitting in class 5-6 hours a day for a summer. That was kind of hard, but that was the sacrifice I made to set the example for my kids. All my kids graduated.
Yahoo.
3 out of Colgate, 2 out of Colgate, you know, 1 out of Brown, and my daughter out of Marquette, and 1 out of North Carolina State. You know, because that education is, you know, people came from overseas, and the main thing they wanted more than a job was to educate their kids, because that's how you move levels up.
Historically, yes.
Yeah.
Larry, I'm going to ask you, what do you think you would have liked best about coming to this facility as a practice facility?
Well, I had a lot of nights where I would wake up having 3 o'clock trying to figure out how I was going to stop Larry Bird. So I would have loved to have been able to come and get up out of bed and come over here and shoot. They can shoot anytime they want, and turn the lights on, put a little music on and shoot. And when I was having those restless nights, I would love to be able to just come in here and get some shots up. And because I believe you should improve something every year that you're in basketball. And in a place like this, you should be able to do that. If you need to get stronger, you can do that. If you need to work on your shot, you can do that. If you need to play defense, you can work on that. So this place allows you to improve something every year. So that's what I would have used it for.
In the remaining minutes that we have, I'm going to ask now for you two. Just keep that in mind as I ask you what you would have liked best about playing in this facility.
I think it's a rehab facility. I mean,
The rehab, the
whole
incredible,
rehab, the
yes.
whirlpools, the strength and conditioning.
The
all
cameras
those types of
under the whirlpool.
Well,
The
not so much
doctors
that,
can
just-
the doctors can see you working out real
just
time.
the care. The care is the issue.
Okay, the care of the
because back
rehab.
in our days, we
Okay.
just had ice.
Just threw you. They just threw you a
Ice.
bag of ice and said,
And ice. And ice. You know, so in this situation, it's a totally different situation, and I think it speeds your recovery.
Okay.
And I think that's key in athletics.
okay. And Austin, what would you have liked best about this facility?
Same thing. The training, because I had problems with bad limbs, so the training would have been perfect for me to be able to rehab properly and to keep strong, and also the nutrition, the diet. See, because I ate a lot of Fritos and
You know, that was one of my questions. I want to know, I got
Doritos
through
and
7 out of 21
Orange Pop.
questions, okay? But I'm going to ask each one of you, how would you have eaten differently as a 22 or 25-year-old player if you knew then what you know now? What would you have eaten differently? How would you have eaten differently, Austin?
well, I wouldn't have ate all those Fritos and Doritos and all that stuff. I was eating Orange Pop before the game. I mean, and McDonald's. But with the nutrition they have here, you can actually set yourself up to eat properly, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I mean, and having that knowledge is really important. It took me about 5 or 6 years before I got into being a vegetarian and understanding how to do all that. But by that time, I had 3 operations.
Are you still a vegetarian?
No, but I'm getting back to that. Jim is getting me back into it now.
How would you have eaten differently, Campy?
I don't think I would eat any different.
You were
because
always a good
I've always
eater.
had that kind
Okay.
of structure.
Okay.
You know, just going back from my family that I come from, as well as my own family, we always had that type of structure. So I don't think I would change anything.
You're no fun. Larry, how would you have eaten differently?
Well, I played a lot of games off double whoppers and Krispy Kreme donuts, so I needed to change. Yeah. So yeah, with the knowledge they have now, I definitely would eat, and I started that right at the end of my career. The unfortunate thing was I got hurt, but I felt myself picking up energy and really being energetic, but I hurt my knee and didn't get to keep the benefits of that. So I definitely would have ate different than what I did.
And Jim?
Well, I eat different now. I've been vegan for over a year,
Wow.
so I don't eat meat or
That's
dairy.
tough.
No, it isn't. Once you understand it,
Right.
it's a systematic approach to eating. But I feel better, but I don't think I could have been vegan as a player because I wouldn't be able to keep up my muscle mass because it's so hard to play every night.
I have one last question. I'm
Sure.
going to ask each of you for like 1 or 2 word answer. What do you wish you would have known about playing overall, about your career when you started out? In a word or 2, Austin.
Probably. What you said? Say that again now.
What do you wish you would have known
What I wish I would have known.
as that guy at Notre Dame that got drafted? What do you wish you would have known about your career?
Probably how not to get injured.
Campy.
I think it's, for the most part, just understanding that I could have had an opportunity to be in a coaching situation.
Larry, in a word.
Yeah, just to stay healthier.
Stay healthy. And Jim.
Probably the same thing.
To stay healthy. You either were at the Miracle, wished you were at the Miracle, have heard about the Miracle of Richfield. Today we have had 4 Cav legends join us: Austin Carr, Campy Russell, Larry Nance, and Jim Chones, to take us back to when all things were possible with our Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm Leslie Ungar for Forum 360 on Neon, your Northeast Ohio network.